Heartwarming gesture. Black Janitor's incredible act reveals the hidden mother of a billionaire. It was a night like any other at the gleaming skyscraper in downtown Chicago. As the world outside slept, Samuel, the dedicated janitor, was making his rounds. With his mop gliding across the marble floors, a shiny smile played on his lips, lighting up the hushed lobby that echoed with dreams deferred. He might not have been the one making billion-dollar deals, but in his heart, he believed he was cleaning the very foundation of success. As he moved through the silence, lost in thought, a sudden thud caught his attention. Samuel whipped around. There, sprawled on the cold marble, was an elderly woman. His heart raced. It was Evelyn, the estranged mother of the billionaire CEO of the corporation he served. Before panic set in, he rushed to her side. The world around them blurred, and all that mattered was this moment. "Ma'am, are you all right?" he asked, gently lifting her to her feet. He noticed the bruises on her arms and the weight of sadness in her eyes. In that moment, Samuel sensed their souls danced in parallel, each carrying burdens that seemed too heavy to bear. "Thank you, young man," she whispered, her voice rough like gravel. Samuel fetched a cup of steaming coffee from the break room, its warmth a gentle comfort against the chill in the air. As they sipped, he listened intently as Evelyn began to share her story, the pinnacle of a life built on loneliness, heartache, and estrangement. Her son, Derek, with all his power and success, appeared oblivious to the wounds they left behind. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. With each passing minute, the bond between Samuel and Evelyn deepened, like roots entwining beneath the surface of a barren earth. They shared laughter and tears, common struggles that transcended their vast differences. As Samuel wiped a tear from the corners of her eyes, it felt less like an act of charity and more like kinship. But then Derek's shadow loomed large, fuming with unspoken anger. He had discovered his mother's newfound friendship with the janitor. The news stung like a betrayal. For Derek, the ruthless corporate titan, there was no room for vulnerability. He was a man guided by ambition, but Samuel knew that beneath the hard veneer lay a heart divided by pain. As Evelyn's health began to decline, Samuel felt a staunch resolve building within him. She deserved a second chance, a reconciliation that money couldn't buy. Like a warrior battling against a tide of ambition and neglect, Samuel prepared to bridge their fractured bond. He gazed at Evelyn, her spirit battling against her frailty. What did family mean if the ties unraveled? The days grew heavier as Samuel found himself at the crossroad of a challenge that transcended his simple janitorial duties. Just as tragedy struck, he realized, real success isn't woven into the fabric of wealth, it's interlaced with the threads of love and forgiveness. With time slipping away, the question loomed like a storm cloud as he stood in the shadows: could he help mend what was broken before the clock ran out? The flickering lights in the lobby cast long shadows, and Samuel's heart raced as he watched Evelyn struggle against the weight of her own memories. He couldn't let this chance slip away. Her spirit was so fragile, like a petal caught in a storm, and he could feel the urgency coursing through his veins. One evening, after everything that had happened, Samuel decided to take a leap of faith. He had been thinking about visiting Derek and confronting him. He knew it was a risk, the last thing he wanted was to cause any more pain for Evelyn. But he also recognized this was their only shot at making things right. It wasn't just about this moment, it was about the future, about family, about love that had been buried beneath layers of hurt. "Ma'am," Samuel said softly as they sat in the small break room, the smell of coffee still hanging in the air, "I think it's time to talk to Derek. He needs to know what you've been going through." Evelyn looked up, her weary eyes narrowing with fear. "What if he doesn't care? What if I only make things worse?" Samuel leaned forward, determination lighting his face. But what if he does care? You deserve to be heard. You deserve a chance to be part of his life again. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken truths, but as Samuel held her gaze, Evelyn's breathing steadied, and hope began to flicker back to life. Over the next few days, Samuel helped Evelyn prepare. They practiced what she would say, words that had been locked away for far too long. He shared stories of his family, the way love can sometimes feel like a tether, pulling you through stormy seas. Each little confidence Samuel instilled in her chipped away at the walls Derek had built around his heart. As the big day approached, anxiety wrapped around them like tight vines. Samuel stood by Evelyn's side, holding her hand as they waited in front of Derek's office. The plush carpet felt foreign to him, too luxurious against the grit of his hands. But now was not the time for doubt. He could sense Evelyn's pulse quickening, and in that moment, he made a silent promise to never let go. When the doors finally opened, Derek emerged, his expression shifting from surprise to confusion. He looked at his mother, this woman who had been lost to him for so long. "What are you doing here?" His tone was sharper than anyone had expected, cutting through the fragile atmosphere. Samuel saw Evelyn shrink back, but in that moment, he squeezed her hand tighter. "Derek," Samuel spoke up, his voice steady. "She may not have all the money in the world, but your mother has wealth beyond measure in her heart. She's tired of hiding. She wants to talk." Derek's brow furrowed, and the tension rose like an unseen storm. Evelyn stepped forward, her voice trembling but filled with bravery. "I've missed you, Derek. I'm sorry for the years lost. I never stopped loving you." Samuel watched the scene unfold, chills racing through him. This was more than a reunion, it was a chance for healing. The air between them crackled with potential, the future hanging in the balance on a thread of forgiveness. "Mom," Derek started, his expression wavering. Just then, the door to healing cracked open, but what lay beyond was yet to be seen. Would they embrace this moment, or let it slip away once more? As tension filled the air, Samuel felt the weight of hope resonate within him. Every heartbeat echoed the question, could one moment truly change the course of their lives? The answer hovered in the silence, waiting for the next move. There was a moment of hesitation, a breath held in the space between them like a fragile bubble. Samuel felt it all around him, the air thick with unexpressed emotions, the lingering doubts, and the barely contained hope. Derek's brow furrowed further as his gaze flickered between his mother and the man standing resolutely beside her. "Why now?" he finally asked, his voice softer yet laced with skepticism. "Why after all these years, Mom?" Evelyn swallowed hard, her voice no longer trembling but steady as she faced her son. "Because I've always been here, Derek. Waiting for you to let me back into your life. I thought about you every day. I just didn't know how to reach you through the walls I helped build." Samuel watched as she spoke, her fingers tightening around his. There was a strength growing within her, fueled by the chance to mend what had been broken. Yet, guilt washed over Derek's face, and Samuel instinctively prepared for the storm. "You think you can just come here and act like nothing happened? Like you didn't leave us?" Derek's anger escalated, his voice rising as he took a step back, almost as if distancing himself from her words. Evelyn flinched, the words slashing through her like icy daggers. Samuel took a breath, sensing it was time to step in again. "Derek, I understand why you're angry. But hear me out. Your mom's not here to erase the past. She wants to be part of your future." Derek's glare shifted between Samuel and Evelyn, the conflict in his eyes revealing layers of hurt and confusion. "You don't understand. I had to grow up without you. I had to learn how to survive when you weren't there. Believe me, I know I've hurt you. That's why this moment is so important to me," Evelyn replied, her voice cracking but barely breaking. "I never wanted to be the person who left. It was a choice I made in desperation, but I've regretted every single day since." For a brief moment, the world around them faded, it was just the three of them and the raw emotion thick in the air. Samuel could see the fight draining out of Derek, uncertainty creeping in. He searched for the right words, for something to anchor them back to a place of hope. "Everyone makes mistakes. It's what we do after that matters," Samuel murmured. "Evelyn S. here, standing in front of you. That says something, doesn't it?" Derek took a ragged breath, the weight of the moment settling onto his shoulders like a heavy blanket. I don't know if I can forgive you, Mom. I don't know if I want to." The vulnerability in his voice was palpable, almost heartbreaking, as he turned his gaze to the floor. Evelyn's heart broke a little more as she watched him grapple with his feelings. "I know, and I want to rush you. But can we start somewhere? Just by talking? I'd give anything for a chance to hear about your life." Derek raised his head slowly, the conflict still clouding his features, yet Samuel could see the longing buried deep within. This wasn't how he thought today would unfold. In that heavy silence, Samuel felt the flicker of hope reignite. Perhaps all they needed was a single step forward, a conversation, even just one small promise. He squeezed Evelyn's hand, sending strength through their bond, but just as it seemed they might break the tension, the office door swung open again. A sharp voice cut through. "Derek, we need you for the meeting now." The interruption jolted them all. Derek's face hardened once more as he glanced over his shoulder, caught in his own emotions and the harsh reality of his obligations. "I can't do this right now," but as he turned to leave, something caught in Samuel's throat. "Wait. Don't walk away without knowing how much this could mean." Derek hesitated, torn between duty and desire, his expression a mix of anger, sadness, and something unnameable. Samuel took a deep breath. "It's not just a conversation, it's about building the bridge you've both needed for so long. Please don't let this moment slip away." Derek pressed his lips together, eyes locking with Samuel's before darting to Evelyn, who stood as hopeful as a lighthouse in a storm. "Fine," Derek finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Let us talk, but I can't promise anything." As he stepped back into the room, Samuel and Evelyn exchanged a glance, relief flooding through them, but also the weight of uncertainty. What would come of this fragile moment? Could they navigate the complexities that lay ahead? The door was open now, but the journey was far from over. An uneasy tension remained, and Samuel couldn't shake the feeling that each step forward could just as easily lead to another setback. Would the conversation unravel the past, or would it shatter the fragile hope they were clinging to? As they took their seats, the air thickened with possibilities, each heartbeat stoking the fires of unanswered questions. Would this be the beginning of healing or yet another chapter of loss? Derek sat down, tension radiating from him like heat from a flame. The moment stretched, the silence heavy as they waited for someone to break the ice. Samuel could see the way Derek's fists clenched, the flickering anger fighting against the curiosity creeping into his heart. Evelyn took a deep breath, her voice gentle but firm. "You didn't have to grow up without me. I chose to leave, but I never stopped loving you. I just wish things were different." Derek shook his head, a tortured expression crossing his face. "You kept making choices for both of us without ever asking what I wanted. You don't get to put this all on me to forgive because you've changed your mind. No one expects you to forgive me," Evelyn interrupted, her tone rising slightly, but she quickly composed herself. "Just allow me the chance to earn that. I'm not asking for a miracle today. I'm simply asking you to listen." Samuel watched the dynamic shift slightly. The walls Derek had so carefully constructed leaned precariously. He leaned forward, hoping to inspire a connection. "You know, when I met your mom, I saw someone caught between her past choices and the hope of a better future. Maybe this is about more than just forgiveness. Maybe it's about understanding." For a moment, Derek's anger faltered. There was something in Samuel's eyes, an understanding that went beyond words. "Understanding?" he echoed, his skepticism mixing with a flicker of interest. "Yeah," Samuel continued, feeling the flicker of hope ignite again. What if we started here? Just a conversation. What if you talked about your life, your struggles? You'd be surprised how healing it can be. Derek's defenses wavered as his eyes softened. You think talking will just fix everything? No, Evelyn interjected, her voice firm but filled with emotion. I don't expect any quick fixes, honey. But talking could help me understand you, and help you understand me. It could be a step no matter how small. A moment passed. Samuel watched as Derek wrestled with his emotions, the conflict playing out like a storm across his face. The walls he fought so hard to uphold seemed to crack further under the weight of their plea. Fine, he said again, but there was a slight change in his tone. It wasn't as harsh. What do you want to know? Evelyn's face brightened as if someone had lit a candle in the darkest of rooms. Everything, she said softly. I want to know everything about my boy. I missed so much. I just want to hear your story. Derek hesitated, the vulnerability creeping back in. The room, once filled with anger, transformed under the warmth of her words. I don't know where to begin. Start with the first day of school, Samuel suggested, his encouragement warm and inviting. Tell her about your friends, the things you loved, the things you hated. As Derek began to speak, recounting memories buried deep, Samuel glanced at Evelyn. There was a glimmer in her eyes, a flicker of hope blooming against the backdrop of all that had been lost. School was hard. I didn't fit in like the other kids. Derek's voice grew more stable, and with each word, it felt like they were pulling back layers of hurt. Samuel sat back, feeling the tension shift. This was progress. Every word Derek shared felt like a step closer to healing. But just as they settled into a rhythm, a loud knock interrupted them again. The door swung open, and in walked a stern-faced man, clipboard firmly in hand. Derek, you're needed immediately in the conference room, he commanded, oblivious to the emotional truce blossoming in the air. Derek's face paled, and the momentary connection he began to forge shattered. I can't go, he stammered, torn between duty and this fragile renewal with his mother. Derek, I understand you have work, but this is family, Evelyn pleaded, urgency mixed with fear echoing in her voice. The moment hung in the air, charged with unuttered feelings. Samuel watched Derek's face twist as he weighed his priorities. You'll have to come back to this, he whispered, his eyes darting toward the door. No. Evelyn cried, her voice breaking. Don't. Walk away again. In that instant, it felt like everything they had just begun to build was teetering on the brink of collapse. Derek hesitated at the doorway, heart racing with tension, uncertainty rearing its ugly head. What choice would he make in this critical moment? Samuel sat forward, desperate for clarity. Derek, if you go, this might be it. What will it take for you to reach out and let this moment breathe? Derek turned, caught between two worlds, a world of unresolved hurt and a glimmer of hope. It hung just above his head, waiting for him to grab it. As he contemplated, the weight of potential decisions forestalled in the air, Samuel felt the urgent pulse of possibility. Moments were fleeting, but this one could redefine everything. Would Derek choose to embrace the chance to heal, or would he retreat into the shadows of his past? Derek stood at the threshold, the tension that crackled between him and the door almost palpable. The man in the doorway seemed a world away, his clipboard and urgency stark against the emotional warmth that had just begun to bloom in the small room. What do you want to do? Samuel asked quietly, his voice low, filled with an intensity that cut through the air. Derek's heart hammered in his chest, and he shifted uncomfortably, glancing from the door to his mother. She looked at him with a mix of hope and fear, vulnerability etched across her features. It's just a meeting, right? They can wait, he said, but the uncertainty in his voice betrayed his resolve. Evelyn took a step forward, her hands trembling slightly. Derek, please. You're not just my son, you're a person with dreams and desires. You deserve to put yourself first for once. What do you want? What did he want? The question hung in the air, ricocheting off the walls of the room. Derek's mind raced back to all the moments he had bottled up hearing about his mom from the whispers of strangers, the unfounded shame that glued him in place whenever he needed to introduce himself, celebrating milestones alone. The image of that first day at school, standing awkwardly by himself, flooded back. A breeze scattered leaves outside, mirroring the storm inside him. He finally dared to meet Evelyn's eyes. "I wanted no, I needed you," he admitted, the words slipping out like a sacred truth. His vulnerability felt raw but liberating. Evelyn's expression softened, the pierced sadness replaced with deep empathy. "I can't change the past, Derek. But I want to be a part of your life now, if you'll let me. Let us rebuild this connection together." The weight of the clipboard-bearing man seemed to grow heavier in the background, but Derek couldn't look away from his mother. Their lives had been intertwined by shattered choices, but here, under the weight of longing, he saw a glimmer of forgiveness. He started, the remnants of anger washing away. "I don't know how to pick up the pieces." "That's okay," Samuel interjected, his voice steady, offering reassurance. "You don't have to know everything right now. Just give yourself permission to choose the moment." Derek took a deep breath, feeling lighter somehow. "I want to talk, to really talk. Can it wait?" The man at the door shifted, his impatience clear. But Derek didn't look at him. He kept his gaze focused on the connection with his mother, the fleeting moments forgotten in time. "Derek." His boss snapped again, his voice cutting into the stillness like a knife. Derek's heart thumped loudly, the fear of letting go battling fiercely against the desire to embrace change, to embrace his mother. He hesitated, looking into the pleading eyes of Evelyn. "I want to know who you are now." Evelyn's eyes glimmered with unshed tears as relief washed over her face. "I can share that with you, Derek. Every single part of me." Derek finally turned toward the waiting man, the momentary clarity shining through. "Give me a minute," he said firmly, his voice taking on a new strength. The stern-faced man blinked in surprise, and for a second, he looked uncertain. Samuel's eyes sparkled with pride. "That's it. That's your moment." He encouraged. As the tension transformed into a tentative yet growing bond, Derek faced his mother, ready to uncover the layers of a stranger who was once the most important person in his life. Just as he opened his mouth to speak, the door jostled and swung back again, revealing another figure, a woman with a bright, infectious smile that shattered the moment yet again. "I'm here for you, Derek," she chirped, oblivious to the heavy air wrapping around them. With his heart racing, Derek looked back at Evelyn, unsure of how this new person would weave into the fragile connections forming in the room. Would she pull him further from the roots of healing he just began to nurture, or was she another piece of the puzzle he didn't yet see? The uncertainty thickened, leaving Derek suspended between the past and an unknown future. What twist awaited him next? Derek blinked, trying to process the unexpected arrival of the woman who had burst into their fragile moment. Her lively energy radiated off her in waves, an unwelcome contrast to the quiet storm already brewing in the room. Who are you?" he stammered, momentarily forgetting the emotional weight that had just filled the space between him and Evelyn. "Oh gosh, I'm sorry for interrupting," the woman exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "I'm Lisa, Derek's personal assistant. I just couldn't wait to see how this meeting was going. You know, they won't move forward until we get his final word." Derek felt the rush of anxiety choke him, squeezing tightly around his chest. The urge to push away whatever connection he was building with Evelyn surged within him, battling against his newfound determination to understand her. He started, but his voice faltered. Evelyn stepped forward, her face a mix of confusion and an underlying irritation. "Can't this wait, Lisa? We're in the middle of something important." Lisa's smile faltered, sensing the shift in energy. It was as if she had interrupted something sacred without realizing it. "Of course. I didn't mean to intrude." Just thought, well, you know how the company is, she said, shooting a guilty glance toward Derek. I understand, he replied, his words steadying slightly as he gathered his thoughts. The friendly distraction had pulled him back from the depths of uncertainty, loosening the grip of anxiety just enough for him to breathe again. Derek, Samuel encouraged softly, bringing his attention back to his mother. This is your moment. Just breathe. You can talk to her later if you need to. Derek nodded slowly, letting the words seep in. Yes, it can wait, he affirmed, stealing another glance at Evelyn, where his thoughts settled once more. Thank you, Lisa said, her tone genuine now. I'll just be outside if you need me. She offered a tremulous smile before retreating back through the door, leaving it ajar. The quiet thud of it closing felt like a weight lifting, though the heavy atmosphere remained. Derek turned back to Evelyn, and the world outside the small room faded away. Okay, he said, finally ready to dig deeper. Where do we start? Evelyn's eyes softened, reflecting a mother's longing. Let us start with the real me, she said, her voice wavering slightly but powerful enough to pull Derek in. The woman who made countless mistakes but has spent every second since trying to make it right, for you. The reality hit him like a ripple. There was so much he didn't know, so much he had assumed. Underneath her undying love, there was guilt and regret. It was human. It was a raw truth he had tried to ignore for so long. Okay, he murmured, feeling the walls between them begin to chip away. Where do we go from here? I'll tell you everything, but I also want to hear your story, she said, looking him squarely in the eyes. Let us share who we are now. Not what we were. Derek took a deep breath, feeling the tension start to melt like snow under the sun. I want to share, and maybe I want to ask you about the past. About choices. Absolutely, Evelyn agreed, nodding earnestly. We can walk through this together. I'm finally home, Derek. The warmth in her voice tugged at his heart, and amidst the debris of years lost, hope started to grow. As they stood there, tensions easing, he caught a glimpse of movement through the window. From the corner of his eye, a familiar face turned toward the door, a man he'd only seen in fleeting moments, the one who had made headlines with his triumphs and wealth. Why was he here now? Derek felt a rush of emotions course through him once again, uncertainty and curiosity colliding. What part of his life did this man represent? And how did he fit into this unfolding story of reconnection? Who is that? He asked, the pulse of his heart quickening. Evelyn's expression shifted. Oh, that's he didn't let her finish. The door swung open again, and suddenly the past, present, and future converged in a single moment, ready to reshape everything he thought he understood. Derek's breath caught in his throat as he watched the man step inside. Time seemed to stretch. The tall figure, dressed in an impeccably tailored suit, held an air of confidence that felt daunting. There was something familiar about him, a presence that sparked an unsettled recognition deep within. David, Evelyn whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. David? Derek echoed, his curiosity igniting further. He had read the name in articles about a tech mogul whose business acumen had reshaped industries and whose charisma made him a fixture on magazine covers. But what was he doing here, in this intimate moment that felt almost sacred? Derek, David greeted, his blue eyes glinting with a mix of surprise and something else. It's good to finally meet you. What do you mean, finally? Derek's mind raced. The world around him felt suddenly small, the walls closing in as the weight of expectations built up. He peered back at Evelyn, who had gone pale, her eyes wide as if slowly realizing what this meant for them. I came to discuss business, David rambled, seemingly unaffected by the charged atmosphere, his voice smooth. But I didn't anticipate walking into. He gestured between them, the question hanging like a question mark in the air. A family reunion? Evelyn shifted her weight, desperately searching for words. It's not what you think, David. This is your son, Derek interrupted, the truth spilling out before he could second-guess himself. The hurt and abandonment he had tried to shove down surged to the surface, tainting every word. "I know who you are." David stepped forward, his posture shifting to something less confident, more guarded. "I didn't know she was. I thought she was just what?" Derek snapped, the fury boiling in his veins. "Some past choice you can dismiss?" Evelyn's voice broke through his anger, her hand reaching toward him but pulling back hesitantly. He could see the distress etched into her features, the realization that her life had just been laid bare before a stranger. "Listen," David said, his tone serious now. "I'm not here to disrupt anything. I just wanted to see how things were going with the project you've been working on. I guess I've got a different family history than I realized." "History?" Derek echoed, incredulity coursing through him. "History is far more than a project to me. You can't just brush past what it means." The air thickened with tension. The enormity of this moment weighed heavily on all three of them. Past choices loomed like shadows, threatening to swallow each of their voices. "Evelyn," David said, his voice softer now, almost a plea. "Why didn't you tell him?" Derek turned, frustration building a dam of hurt in his chest. Evelyn looked lost, as if the threads of her story were unraveling right before her eyes. "I didn't know how," she finally confessed, her voice trembling. "I thought I was protecting him from what?" Derek demanded. "From the truth?" The silence stretched, unbearable. He could see the fear in her eyes, the regret that had haunted her for years now spilling into the open. "From being hurt," she said finally. "From knowing that I hadn't just made mistakes. I shattered everything and it's taken me this long to come back." In that moment, something shifted inside Derek. He should have felt anger, but instead, an instinctive urge to understand washed over him. Was there a chance for them? For forgiveness? "So what now?" Derek asked, his heart pounding, uncertainty mixing with a flicker of hope. Before Evelyn could answer, Lisa reappeared, excitement lighting up her face. "Oh, Derek cut her off again, "not now, Lisa." He was weary of interruptions, weary of needing permission for heartfelt conversations. The turmoil within him clashed against his desire for connection. "Derek?" David said, breaking the silence. "Maybe we didn't choose these paths, but we can choose how to move forward." Derek met his gaze, the weight of generations pressing against him. Was this the beginning of something new, something uncharted? As he looked from Evelyn to David, his heart raced with a flood of uncertainty laced with a glimmer of hope. Answers lay just beyond the veil of anger. Would he step into the unknown? "Maybe," he whispered, "but I don't know if I can." And as the door swung shut behind them, silence fell, heavy with unsaid truths and a world of possibilities, lingering in the air. What would happen next? Would they seek clarity together, or would old wounds keep them apart once again? The silence tightened like a noose around them, breaking only when Evelyn finally looked up, determination flashing across her face. "We need to talk," she said, her voice steadier as she stepped toward David. Derek could see the fear mixed with resolve in her eyes. "About what?" David asked, a hint of confusion softening his sharp features. "About the project? Or are we venturing into the past?" "Both," Evelyn replied, her hands clasped tightly in front of her, as if to keep from trembling. "It's time for all of us to be honest. Not just for ourselves, but for him," she said, nodding over to Derek. Something inside Derek shifted again. The idea of being directly addressed, of being spoken about like a person rather than a secret or a lost cause, made his chest swell with a blend of vulnerability and hope. "Fine," Derek interjected, his voice low but simmering with intensity. "We can talk. Let us start with the truth, then." David ran a hand along the back of his neck, glancing between them like he was searching for a way out. "Look, I didn't come here to what?" Derek interrupted. "To pretend we live in separate worlds, to sweep the past under the rug? You can speak now, or we can carry this burden forever. David sighed heavily, his confident facade beginning to crumble. All right then. I never knew I didn't know she was pregnant when I left. I thought our paths were closed, that we had just missed our moment. Evelyn's expression darkened. Missed our moment? You don't get to dismiss the choices you made, David. You left, and I've spent years building a life for Derek that I thought you'd never be a part of. That's fair, he nodded, his voice barely audible. But I didn't know until a year ago that I had a son. It wasn't just decisions on my end, I felt trapped in my own life. And then all these things came crashing down when I found out. Derek sensed the shift. It felt complicated, this tangle of emotions and histories. But as he listened, he struggled to reconcile the anger boiling inside him and the tiny flicker of empathy growing in its place. So in a way, which part do you want to apologize for? The leaving or the not knowing? Derek asked, his heart racing as vulnerability slipped through his anger. David paused, searching for the words. I'm not sure there's any right way to do this. But I want to be a part of your life if you'll let me. I never had a chance to be a father. I want to try. The room held its breath, and Derek felt an almost tangible shift in the air. Evelyn's eyes were wide, a mixture of hope and fear flickering across her face. What did it mean to allow this man, who had caused so much pain and confusion, into their lives? I don't know if I can trust you, Derek finally said, the weight of those words lifting a little of the heaviness in his chest. You need to earn that trust. You left, David. You walked away from all of this. I want to change that, David insisted, desperation creeping into his voice. I want to be here now. For both of you. No more secrets. Evelyn stepped closer to Derek, reaching for his arm, seeking reassurance. Derek, this is a big decision. We can't rush into anything. But there's potential here, don't you see? I see a whole lot of uncertainty, he replied, wrestling with himself. His heart ached at the thought of what letting David into their lives could bring: comfort, chaos, even heartbreak. The moment hung heavy between them, choices twisting like strands in a tightly wound yarn. A slow exhale slipped from Derek, sampling the weight of new possibilities. Just give me time, he said finally, his voice softening. It was all he could offer for now, a chance at understanding, a thread leading into the unknown. Of course, David replied, his relief evident. As they hovered on the brink of an emotional abyss, the door of the room creaked open once more, revealing Lisa, wide-eyed and breathless. I just heard. Are we having a family meeting? The words hung there, innocent yet profound, like ripples on a pond. In that moment, Derek's heart thudded, gripping the complexity of family reconnections. Did he dare to step forward, hand in hand, into this mess of emotions and hope? And for a fleeting moment, the fragmented pieces of their lives seemed to dance together in the air. Would they dare to embrace the possibility of healing, or would fear send them spiraling apart once again? The atmosphere shifted again as Lisa's innocent question settled over them. Derek felt the weight of her gaze, innocent yet expectant, as if she understood the enormity of the moment but lacked the words to articulate it. A family meeting? Lisa repeated, her brow furrowed as she took in the tense expressions around her. Uneasy glances flickered between Evelyn and David, and it was clear that the moment wasn't easy to explain. Evelyn cleared her throat, her voice thick as she began to speak. Lisa, there's a lot going on. We're discussing some changes. Changes? Lisa echoed, her youthful curiosity igniting a nervous energy in the room. Derek stepped forward, wading into the tangled emotions swirling around them. It's about understanding each other. About who we are and what we've done. His voice was shaky, but he kept his eyes on Lisa. We're talking about family, and how complicated it can be. Her eyes widened, he could see the wheels turning in her head. Complicated how? I thought we were all a family already. His heart cracked at the sincerity in her words. How could he explain the mess? Sometimes families aren't just about blood. They're about the people we choose to let in, and the ones we can't. David shifted awkwardly, his expression caught between longing and regret. Lisa, I know this is confusing. I'm your uncle. I'm Derek's father. The silence that followed felt explosive. Lisa's mouth dropped open, surprise written all over her face. But how? Why didn't anyone tell me? A hint of sadness seeped into her voice. It's complicated, Derek repeated, frustration building within him. And it's not something we talked about. We're still figuring it out. I thought family was supposed to be there for each other, Lisa said, her youthful innocence framing the question with a weight he hadn't considered. David opened his mouth to respond but paused, collecting his thoughts. I never meant to hurt anyone. I want to be here now. I realize I can't change the past, but I want to make things right. You all deserve that. Derek felt a flicker of understanding at the plea in David's voice. The path to rebuilding their lives together would be difficult, but doing it in front of Lisa made it painfully real. Making it right doesn't mean it will be easy. Then maybe we start with little things, Lisa suggested, her brows knitted together. Like a dinner? With all of us? Just talking? Evelyn looked at her daughter, admiration and strength shining in her gaze. That would be a step. A baby step. But where do we even start? Derek asked, his voice low, vulnerable. Start by being honest, Lisa said, full of determination. We share what we've been hiding. We might be surprised at how much we have in common. The suggestion hung in the air like a whisper of hope. It seemed simple yet radical. They had all lived separate lives, carrying burdens that had now reached a boiling point. For the first time, Derek felt a glimmer of unity, however fragile. David nodded slowly. I agree. Let us make this work together. What happens next? Derek asked, his heart thrumming in his chest, caught in the whirlwind of possibilities. Evelyn stepped closer, her presence grounding him. We take it one day at a time. We let the past teach us and not break us. As they collectively drew breath, hopeful anticipation mixed with fear. Would they have the courage to stand together and face the fiascos of their past? Lisa's voice broke through the tension, light but laced with truth. So dinner then? Can we do it tonight? Derek couldn't help but smile at her optimism. Tonight it is. Yet as they began to grasp the yearning for connection, a subtle unease still gnawed at Derek. The past wouldn't easily forgive, and just the thought of unraveling their tangled histories made his stomach churn. As they prepared to leave the room, Lisa paused, her curious gaze shifting back to David. Will you really stay this time? Derek held his breath, unsure of the answer, looking at David as if to say, prove it. But the answer wasn't simple, and uncertainty lingered in the air. Like the last notes of a song. Would David truly fight for his family this time? They stepped into that uncharted territory together, hearts pounding as the door closed behind them, opening a path to an unknown future and the promise it held. What would be revealed in the shadows of their past? As the door clicked shut behind them, Derek's heart beat loudly in the stillness of the hallway. The air was thick with anticipation, each step echoing the complexity of emotions swirling inside him. He glanced at Evelyn, whose face was a portrait of hope and anxiety, a delicate balance on the precipice of vulnerability. David followed closely, trailing behind like a shadow, unsure and almost ghostly. Tonight is important, not just for the three of us, but for Lisa, Evelyn said softly, her voice steady despite the anxious flutter in her chest. We need to set an example for her, show her how to turn chaos into connection. Derek nodded, the weight of her words sinking in. The dinner wasn't just a meal, it was an opportunity to rewrite their narrative, to reclaim whatever semblance of family they could. His phone buzzed in his pocket, jarring him momentarily from his thoughts. It was a message from Lisa asking for a menu, her exuberance brightening the path ahead. We should call her and get ideas, maybe even have her help prepare, Derek suggested, the thought of involvement lifting some of the heaviness within him. It felt good to think about engaging in something together, a tangible effort towards harmony. On their way to the car, evening shadows fell over the city, the glowing streetlights twinkling like promises being made. As they reached the parking lot, Derek felt David watching him. "I know this isn't easy," David said, his voice low but clear. "But I'm committed to being here. For the long haul." Derek's gut reacted with skepticism. "It's not enough to just say that," he replied, feeling the remnants of pain rise to the surface. Yet, in David's eyes, there was an earnestness, a glimmer of determination to change. "You'll have to show that you mean it," Derek added, determination weaving into his tone. "This isn't about today or tomorrow. It's about rebuilding years." Evelyn's hand found Derek's shoulder, a gesture of solidarity, a conduit of strength. "The past may try to pull us back, but we get to choose how to move forward. All of us." They piled into Derek's car, the air inside was charged with unspoken thoughts and aspirations. As they drove towards the grocery store, Evelyn pulled out her phone. "Let's make a list together," she exclaimed, her excitement hiding the fear underneath. As Derek made a left turn, he couldn't shake the feeling of hope blooming just beyond the horizon. "How about we make that casserole you used to make, Mom?" he suggested, the nostalgia rolling off his tongue like a bomb. "It's not the same without that old family recipe," she laughed, her eyes sparkling as memories rushed back. "But I know how to get us pretty close." A moment of shared laughter broke the tension, creating a brief but sweet thread of connection. Derek's heart warmed. It was moments like this, simple, filled with hints of regularity that he had craved over the years. At the store, they thumbed through options and discussed flavors and ingredients with laughter behind every choice. Derek caught a glimpse of what family could feel like, involving each other in the small things, step by step, like planting seeds together. And with every cart item, he found himself craving that possibility of what lay ahead. As they loaded the car, Lisa's voice bubbled with enthusiasm, her energy infectious. "I can't wait to help out in the kitchen. This is gonna be the best dinner ever." Derek turned to David, who seemed taken aback by the spirit radiating from Lisa. "You see?" he said, hope edging into his voice. "This is what we've been missing, a chance to be together, to be open." David nodded, a newfound understanding dawning on him. "Then let us not just have dinner. Let us share stories. Let us build connections. I want Lisa to know what family truly means." As they drove home, excitement gripped the car like a thick fog lifting. The atmosphere was brighter, the path expanding as they embraced the upcoming dinner. Back at home, they gathered ingredients and sights and sounds swirled like a spirited melody around them. Laughter echoed in the kitchen as Evelyn pulled pieces together, offering small snippets of her life interspersed with cooking tips and family history. Derek and David watched, learning from her rhythm, feeling like the rich complexities of their pasts intertwined with the present. As the aroma of the casserole wafted through the kitchen, Derek felt something shift in his heart. Tonight wasn't a promise for a perfect resolution but an acknowledgement of the journey they were on together. Lisa rushed into the room with a small stack of napkins in hand, joy apparent on her face. "Can I set the table?" she asked, her energy lighting up the space. "Yes. Please." Evelyn replied, her smile wide and genuine. The trio gathered, piecing together not just a meal, but an emotional banquet laden with stories, regrets, hopes, and the warmth of newfound connections. As they sat down together, sharing a meal that was more than just food, the warmth of family filled the air. It wasn't about erasing the past, it was about owning it. Each shared glance and each tear shed became a cornerstone in their story, reminders that healing takes time, but it starts with honesty. At the end of the evening, as laughter faded into smiles and the meal ended, they knew that though the road would be long, they would walk it together. Derek looked around the table at his mother, father, and sister, all smiling through their array of complex emotions. He took a deep breath, feeling lighter, more hopeful. They had broken the surface together, a fresh start had begun. "Let us promise to keep this going," he said, the determination evident in his voice. "More dinners, more stories, more us." And as the sun dipped low, wrapping the apartment in a warm glow, a new chapter began filled with love, patience, and understanding, anchored in the promise of family. Now, it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help this amazing community grow. Comment your reactions and feelings about this heartwarming ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.